Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 808 for Friday, the 14th of February. Julia, it is
Valentine's Day.
St. Valentine's Day indeed. We're delighted to have you all with us here on the show. We've got quite a panel, an expert panel, and they are from checking in from around the world. We literally around the world. Greece, Great Britain, here in the States, down in Australia and in Italia as well. Delighted to have you all with us on what is our foiling show put together by Coach John Emmett. Very appreciative of John's work. Again, we've got folks in the chat from Melbourne, Pedro Foiling Sailor in Sydney, Chris Exley in Salem, Mass, outside of Boston. Clayton Embley has just crossed the Moon River in Savannah, Georgia, in style. Graham Sweeney up in sunny but cold Shetland, Scotland. Donna Walker in North Texas. Fritz Mueller in Miami. Stingray in Seattle. Graham Sweeney, we mentioned. Chris Fury, happy birthday. Is it Mary Longtree's birthday, Julia?
Yes.
I didn't know that. But welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's an exciting show to have, again, it's not our largest panel we've ever had. It's maybe not even our most prestigious, but it's right up there. It's certainly among the most prestigious. Delighted to welcome in a moment formally John Emmett, Hattie Rogers, Marina Sikuju in Greece, alongside Marcus Fentner from Germany, also now in Greece, longtime friend. He's a Fozy. He's been on the show, Julia. Mm-hmm. As well as Luca Risotto, Rizzotti. I'm going to call you Risotto, Luca. My longtime friend who helps me with my Italian pronunciation.
All of us need help with that.
And Helena, don't call me Helena, Helena Scott here from the U.S. There she is. Delighted to have you all with us. We'll get to them in a moment. Let's carry on, Julie, with what are we celebrating today?
Besides Valentine's Day?
That's the only thing. What else is there to celebrate, right?
I don't know.
Of course, it's Valentine's Day, a day filled with love, romance, and sweet gestures. The perfect opportunity to show affection towards those special people in your life. And I thought it was really appropriate that we've got Marina and Marcus there in the upper right corner of the grid, in the chair together below a painting. I guess that's Cupid. We'll ask them in a moment what that painting is, but very appropriate here on Valentine's Day. And I didn't know the history of Valentine's Day. Did you know, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
What? You said,
St. Valentine.
You don't have to recite it. Here's the video.
Yeah.
February is widely known as Valentine's Day. But do you know how this special occasion came about? The 14th of February is actually a feast day in the Anglican Communion and Lutheran Church, but became known as Valentine's Day because of a certain Saint Valentine of ancient Rome. The reigning emperor Claudius II had banned marriage, believing that single men made better soldiers. St. Valentine performed secret wedding ceremonies for soldiers. Unfortunately, the emperor caught wind of this and imprisoned him. It's commonly said that before his execution, Valentine wrote a letter to his jailer's daughter after he healed her of her blindness and signed off with "Your Valentine" as a farewell. However, it wasn't until much later, during the 14th century, that Valentine's Day became a day for romantic celebration, with author Geoffrey Chaucer's poem The Parliament of Fowls being the first to reference Valentine's Day as a day associated with romantic love. By the 18th century, gift-giving and exchanging of chocolates and cards had become quite common, and today St. Valentine's Day is celebrated worldwide. In fact, 25% of all cards sent each year being Valentines.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't either.
I thought they were happy birthday and Christmas cards and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Well, there's the history of what is today an auspicious day. This day in history is interesting, too.
Besides St. Valentine?
Yes, we're going to have a special in the second hour. The first hour, we're going to have our foiling panel because some of them are yacht racers, sailors, busy people, unlike those of us who hang around here on Tuesdays and Fridays. Yeah. Lots of people in the chat. Clark Chapin said Claudius, too, had a Doge, meaning our Department of Government Efficiency here in the U.S. Yeah, right. Who knew? There's John Collings down under saying good morning. Alistair Murray, Mr. President Emeritus of Australian Sailing, saying John's backdrop looks familiar. Oh, hang on, that's my house. John is in Melbourne in front of one of Alistair's many bars. That's one of his many bars, Julia.
Yes.
And welcome to all of them. We are celebrating Valentine's Day, but of course, we're also celebrating all of our FOSI. This show is brought to you again by the FOSI, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, and especially those of you who are patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We thank you very much indeed for your support. And finally, some program notes coming up. Not only do we have an esteemed panel today, but coming up next Tuesday, he was going to be on today, as I mentioned earlier this week, but he's moved now to next Tuesday for a couple of reasons. Britton Ward.
The famous.
Famous, yes, that's right, Julia. The famous Britt Ward, Far Yacht Design, American Magic Design team member, senior VP, whatever his title is at Far Yacht Design. But he will be promoting for us the 25th anniversary Chesapeake Sailing Yacht Symposium. This is a big deal for yacht designers, engineers, naval architects, and so on. It's held at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. People from around the world come and present papers, and Britt will preview that for us next Tuesday. He's one of the leaders of that event, which takes place the 14th to the 15th of March. It's the world's longest running technical forum dedicated to advancing the art and science of sailing. I wonder if they'll be talking about foiling. You know they will.
Of course they will.
Because they're going to talk about AC-37, among other things. Next Friday, a week from today, the equally esteemed John Rogers, Coach John Rogers at San Diego Yacht Club, will be with us to update us, really to tell us about the radio control RC yachts, radio controlled yacht racing sailing in the DF, particularly in the DF 95 class. It is growing like topsy. It is growing and it's inexpensive, and John's going to fill us in. We're delighted to have Coach John with us. And then on the 28th, a week from next Friday, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin will be on, giving us an offshore racing update, everything going on around the world this year, from now right through the Sydney Hobart race, which I think is the 80th. It's a big number this year for Sydney Hobart. But also he is in fact, chairman of the advisory committee for the revived Admirals Cup.
Yay.
So the Admirals Cup will be back in action, the RORC's Admirals Cup this summer, the 2025, and Andrew McIrvin will update us on all that and no doubt more. Maybe we'll get some on the 5th anniversary of COVID. We can see if COVID is well and truly gone. Let's get to our panel. curses foiling again, not because the panel is cursed. They love foiling. They're all experts. And we appreciate very much John Emmett putting this panel together. And I'll introduce them, bring their mics up. Hattie Rogers. Are you in the UK, Hattie?
I'm actually not. I'm in New Zealand at the moment, so it's the morning.
Because you just sailed in the Worlds for the Moth Worlds, right? We're down there. We followed you, and you, of course, won the women's division of the Moth Worlds. Did you not?
Yeah, exactly. So I've been here for a while. I was at home for a week in the UK after the Cup, and then I came straight down here. So been here for a few months now.
Hey, it is Valentine's Day. May I ask, you have a special friend in New Zealand?
I do. Yeah, my boyfriend's from New Zealand. He's a laser sailor. So
do we know his name?
No. George.
Sorry? It's none of your business.
Julia? She doesn't have to say if she doesn't want to.
She was trying to be polite.
Hattie, welcome and thanks. Look at Emmett. Look at Emmett. It's laughing. He warned them all that, we're not afraid to. Yeah. And then our two good friends from they've been on the show. I don't know if Marina's been on the show, but she watches the show a lot, puts in pithy questions and comments. She's in Greece along with, I think, her good friend, Marcus Schwentner, who's been on the show a handful of times. Marcus, Marina, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Where in Greece?
Go.
We are in Nafplio, which is around the corner from home. We departed today on a road trip to go along the coast, run a race, running, not sailing for a change, go up to Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and back. So a little bit of road trip, winter holidays, with a bit of skiing.
It sounds great. Tell us, Marina, if you would, are you at your home, and is that your painting behind you?
No, we are in Nafplio, a city about 200 kilometers away. And we came to the hotel room, and it has all these paintings. It's not, it was not expected. And yeah, it's a bit weird and awkward, but fine. So Marcus is hiding the thing.
The nakedness.
Oh, well, you don't have to do that for this show. Julie is famously, sometimes she appears naked on this show.
No.
Great to see you both, and great painting up. Apropos this Valentine's Day, Luca, down in the lower left corner. Luca's been on the show too. As I said in the intro, he helps me with when we're with Andrew Pindar to pronounce Malchesine. Correctly. Luca, welcome.
Correct. Thank you, Tom. Nice to be back.
Are you in Italia now? Where are you?
I'm in Milano, yeah.
In Milano.
Yeah. About to go to Pensacola next week on Tuesday.
The founder and really the guru of foiling, I would say, I think it's fair to say. And you have done how many foiling weeks now in and around the world before you do this one?
Including the one we are doing in Pensacola is the 15th.
15th.
Wow.
And that's in a couple weeks' time in Pensacola. So we're going to ask you about that toward the end of we only have the gang for an hour, as I said. And finally, Helena Scott, the superb American sailor. Never had Helena on the show. Helena, are you in the U.S.?
I am, yeah. I'm in Merritt Island in Florida. I'm visiting my sister-in-law, Paris Henkin, and her fiance is the director of the Melgus Water Sports Center here, which is a new spot set up. He's doing an amazing job, and it's cool to check it out and hang out with them.
Great. Neat. Cool stuff. John Emmett, you put this panel together. Do you want to open with any big picture thoughts, advice, otherwise?
Yeah, so first of all, I see the number of average views is creeping up. So please do share, because I know there's some quite strong feeling. It's really good for the folks to join us live. And I think the main thing for me is that foiling is gradually becoming more accessible. So the number of wasps in the boat park is second only to the ilkas. And for those people who travel, winging is really accessible because you can just take it as an extra bag. So yeah, now the foiling cat's out the bag. It's very definitely here to stay. No questions asked in my mind.
Well, there are some who disagree, and maybe we'll get some chat from Graham Sweeney and others in the chat today, but that's not the point. The point is to explore foiling, see what's going on. Daniel Grun in Germany and Augsburg is saying, for example, amazing guests we have today. Yes, Daniel, they are amazing. It's a terrific, one of the best panels we've ever had, as I said at the top of the show. Clark Chapin, he's making a political commentary here about the U.S. There's Greg Normand up, who runs the YouTube channel Inside Sailing, Inside Great Lakes Sailing. And he said, Tom, the world of financial sailing says hello from Austria. And Greg has been feeding in some interesting information, which we'll have for you in the C block, along with some info I will have about Sir Ben Ainslie and maybe his next America's Cup backer. Britton Ward is a wonderful presenter, Gordon Smith says. Yes, we'll have Britt on next Tuesday, and a fabulous engineer. And that, Dirk Dastardly, Gordon Smith knew. Peter Taylor, thanks. Boris Gudanoff, thank you to you. There's Christopher Gillingham in Leamington, along with his wife, Jane. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Christopher and Jane. And Anna, there's Jay Rendell in White Bear Lake up in Minnesota. Welcome to all of you. Lots of people on here already. But let's get into the foiling. We've got about 40 minutes here before some of the gang have to leave. And I've got videos that I hope, I showed them in the tech check to our panel. I hope each of these videos help all of us better understand the various disciplines and the rapid growth of foiling within our beloved sport, starting at the top really with the America's Cup, but also explaining broadly what's going on. I thought this video would be the good way to start. Have a look.
Hello, I'm Francis Huber. I'm gonna tell you 3 things about foiling that you might not know. First of all, foiling might seem new, but the first foiling yacht was designed and built in 1906 by Enrico Forlanini and sailed on Lago Maggiore, reaching 38 knots. Second thing, hydrofoil were introduced in the America's Cup in 2013 in San Francisco when the gigantic catamaran powered by rigid wings started to use their appendages to lift the boat out of the water and started to foil all over the race course. And last thing, accessibility. Today, foiling is very accessible. You can use an e-foil, you can use a wing foil, and kite surfing or windsurfing. You can have the sensation after a couple of days, and 2 days you can foil for cheap and for everybody.
Okay, that's a nice video by North Sails. Francis Hubner, I've done a couple of America's Cup campaigns with him. Smart guy, delightful guy. Luca, you as the godfather of foiling and of this, the last 15 years, all the progress that's been made, you're responsible for a lot of it. What's your big picture summary of what we just saw and what we're going to see going forward?
Well, it's I think the numbers and the performance have changed a lot. When we started the first foiling week, we had basically only 3 classes. We had the moths, the kites, and there was also, I think, 25, 30 boats, which were 99% of them, they were garage built by what we called back then the thinkers and tinkerers. That kind of, I would say, type of construction and foiling dream is kind of gone, mainly because a lot of products have come to market. In Foiling Week in Pensacola, to give you an idea, we are going to have 17 classes. So there's a huge jump in number of available boats and disciplines. And to give you an idea of the difference in performance, just take the moth again. When I started the moth in 2007, on a Blade Rider, we were going let's say on 12 knots through wind speed. The boat was doing more or less 13, 14 knots. Now they do 22, 23. That's what I hear the beakers are doing or were doing in Manly. That's basically a 50% increase in performance in slightly more than 15 years. It's basically gaining a 3/4 of a knot every year, which is incredible. I mean, you don't see that in any other class, only in open development class.
To say nothing of having been moved into it, it has moved into the Olympics, Sail GP, and the America's Cup in a big way. So everybody's talking about foiling. Let's go look at, if I may, Luke, at some of these other disciplines, and starting with the Olympic IQ foil. What used to be the windsurfer is now the foiling windsurfer.
Some say that IQ foil isn't really an exciting sport. What sport has races across seas, oceans and mountain lakes? Or goes through hailstorms, blazing sun and massive waves? What sport involves competing in multiple disciplines to crown the ultimate winner? Reaches 60 kilometers per hour, powered only by nature. Sure, we're new in the world of sailing. We have crashes and the odd unintended airtime. But for us, the shore is no place to be. Winning one race doesn't mean you can win the headlines, but one bad race can put you on the sideline. Our kit is 10 times climate positive. Our goals are helping fight climate change. Our finals echo around the world. And our big race, we do it 14 times a year. This is no ordinary sport. This is IQ foil.
John Emmett, you are an Olympic coach in the ILCA class, but every time I talk to you, you do a regular, virtually every show. Every time we come on here, you say, well, you know, as soon as we get in off the water, the ILCA, the laser people, we all want to go foiling on something. Has foiling taken over your world aside from the ILCAs?
Well, I'm a bit slow to box, but the first thing I would say, if we forget about the IQ foils, maybe questionable format they had at the last games, which is going to be changed, half the Olympic classes are now foiling. Half, which I think is just the way it should be. But best example, Jack and Tat, Anne-Marie, and a lot of the ILCA 6 girls who are at the Seoul GP, they're all off to Thailand to go foiling for a week now.
Okay, I have a quick question for everybody. We're going to go around the panel. And this question is from Håkan Hawkinson. Given the choice between a Friday night race, I think he means in a beer can boat in a monohull of some sort, and a foiling moth in a race on a Friday night, what would be your choice? I have had a number of skinny dipping girls from a beer can race, but never from a moth, which leads to participation. What's your choice? And are we hurting participation by this rush to foiling? Let's go around the panel, starting with Helena.
I'll take a foiling moth any day.
And is it helping participation? Are we getting younger people into the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a lot of kids that, you know, that they're our sports future. And I can tell you right now that if they weren't able to go sailing in a wasp or a moth or winging, we would probably lose them to other sports because they like that sensation and they like the excitement. And so I think it's a really important aspect of our sport.
Luca, what do you think?
Well, foiling is growing every year. Now the numbers of foiling are going up. Foiling week number 1 had 60 participants. The last one has 450. So we don't have a problem of participation. I think we are probably sailing greatest opportunity to remain a sport that the youth like to do. As Helena said, we have the excitement and the fun that in the before foiling was kind of fading out, but now it's back, and the youngsters, they want to do it.
What do you think, Marina? What do you think, Marcus?
He might not hear.
Marina, Marcus, do you have a view on this? Is the sport growing because of this? Would you rather go foiling than going on a Friday night beer can race?
I don't think they're here.
I think we lost them. Uh-oh, lost their connection. They're in a hotel somewhere in Greece. So we'll go to Hattie. Hattie, do you have a thought on that?
Well, having just renovated a catamaran. I think the Friday night racing scene's still very much there, certainly in Auckland with the run racing. I really love both. But yeah, the Moth is just something I've looked up to for so long, and it's so high performance that, and we're really starting to see a pathway form with the Wasp and then into classes like the Moth or the Switch. And it's just so exciting, I think, for the next generation coming through.
Yeah, I see Andrew Pindar has joined us. He said that jet lag cure didn't work. I'm not sure what his jet lag cure was, but maybe it was Ainsley and Ainsley, the sleeping potion, Julia. I don't know. Let's have another video then and come back to our panel in a moment after talking about not the IQ foil, but the other Olympic discipline, and that is kiting. Have a look at this video.
Men's and women's kite is a brand new event that will be making waves.
This is
at
actually
Paris
from World Sailing just
Singapore's
before
Max
the
Mader
Marseille Olympics.
And Daniela Moroz of the USA tell us all about what will be the fastest sport at the Summer Games.
The Formula Kite class is a new class in Olympic sailing where you are propelled by a kite, which is your sail in the air, and a board with a hydrofoil attached to it.
It's fast-paced racing, it's really intense, it's super exciting to watch, and it's actually the fastest summer Olympic sport, so it's a really great addition to the games. In the Formula Kite class, the women and the men are riding the same exact gear.
Depending on the wind speed, you'll use a 23-meter square kite for light winds, a 15-meter square kite for moderate winds, and an 11-meter square kite for the strongest of winds.
And then the last piece is the hydrofoil, and that's what allows us to fly above the surface of the water. Often around the course, we'll be doing 3 times the wind speed.
The main strength of Formula Kite athletes is their legs. We do 4 races a day, each around 12 minutes long, which take a toll on your body when you have to basically squat for 48 minutes a day.
Not only are you pushing super hard physically, but you're also playing a chess game in your head against your competitors. So there's also a big strategic game happening at the same time.
At the Olympic Games, there'll be 20 riders from 20 different nations competing in the Formula Kite class. After qualifying, half of them will be eliminated.
Then on the final day, it's the medal series, and the top 10 get seeded. And it's all about winning races and continuing on into the next round.
Then 4 of the best riders fight for the medals. It really makes for intense, tight, and exciting racing in the final.
Marseille is a really cool venue. We can have a really light wind sea breeze, or we can have the famous super strong 25-knot Mistral. So as a competitor, you have to be good in all of those different conditions.
For medal contenders, my personal picks would be Axel Mazella from France, Tony Vodisek from Slovenia, and I myself as well.
The French are going to be really strong on their home waters, and then the Brits also have a really strong squad. So it's going to be tight
pretty
between
good
the French
calls
and the
by
Brits
both of them.
and me. So let's go.
Terrific video, I thought. And one of the leaders within world sailing over the last decade who's helped push foiling into the Olympics is with us on the panel. And that, of course, both Marina, but also especially Marcus Schwentner. Marcus, are you still involved in world sailing at a high level? And what do you think of having pushed kiting in the Olympics? Has that been a good thing for the Olympics?
Yeah, so I mean, my main job remains to run the kiteboarding class. I'm still a member of the World Sailing Events Committee, and the discussions going there and about the format for the next games and how it's all evolving. There will be no changes in events and equipment for LA, so we will see the same as in Paris. So the discussions are more evolving now around the format. We will find a joint format with the IQ foil class, which John introduced was, well, some like it, some don't like it, but we will find a combination between the kite format and the IQ foil format, which makes it more understandable for everyone, and we find the best, fairest way.
Okay, anyone else want to comment on this kiting phenomenon? John?
I mean, it's very unfortunate that Ellie didn't manage to make it on, and she's a fantastic example of somebody who came through a really
John, tell us who Ellie is. and we were hoping to have her on the
Ellie is the
panel.
Olympic
Couldn't
gold
come on at
medalist.
the last minute.
Ellie's the Olympic gold medalist from Paris, and she came through ABs, which is a bit like a cadet, 420, 29er, FX, and now obviously she's kiting and sail GP and all the rest of it. But I just want to say it's not either or. So with Lily, you know, she'll ask me the forecast, and if it's 12 knots, she'll go wasp sailing in the evening. And if it's 8 knots, she'll sail an aero. And if I get the wrong forecast, I'm really unpopular.
Okay. Okay, we got so many comments and questions coming in the chat, as usual, but even perhaps more so today. John Collings down under saying they seem to be standing in a crouch position. Will this not cause long-lasting back pain issues from an old laser sailor with issues? John?
I mean, it's all in the legs. I mean, if you look at how strong the athletes are, and the way I see it, I saw the comments about what's Olympic classes got to do with grassroots sailing. It's just another stepping stone. And I think Ellie will probably say herself, if she was here, she just liked getting faster and faster and faster. And the kiting represents the fastest you can currently go at the moment on your own in the water, on the water.
Fair enough. Julia, do you see Graham Sweeney is in the chat? He's saying,
Yes.
This forum is incredibly one-sided. Where's the other side to the story? I'm just listening to a foiling or stunt. Well, Graham, our dear Super Fozy up in Scotland, we're going to talk in the second hour, as long as anybody wants to talk about foiling and whether it's good, bad, or indifferent for the sport. But in fairness to our guests, some of them, first of all, it's midnight in Greece, or about to be, so we want to let them get off on their Valentine's night. I don't know what they're going to do. Have some ouzo? Yasu? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. There's some thumbs up. Marina, I don't know if you know this. I may have told you this in the past, but I grew up in a town named Ypsilanti, named after your famous Greek, I guess he was in the Revolutionary War general, and Demetrius Ypsilantis. So we celebrated Greece growing up as a kid in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Julia, did you know that?
Yes.
Oh, you did.
Only because you told me.
And as Marcus knows, I spent a lot of time in Germany. We lived in Hamburg for almost 10 years. Marcus, if you could probably tell by his accent, he's not exactly Greek, but he is German. And we're delighted to have him as well. So, Graham, we'll get into the whole discussion about this in a moment. While John was talking, I played these two photos of the gold medalist. John, anything else to say about kiting, or anyone else want to say anything about her or about the kiting in the Olympics this time? John?
I mean, I really hope that at some point in the future, Ellie will come on, because she can speak far better than me. But as a sport, I believe we need to make the cake bigger rather than worrying about how big everybody's slice of the cake is. And in terms of the foiling panel, I mean, I'm a non-foiler. In 1 hour, I'm going to be coaching ilkers, and my skill set, I've never even foiled in my life. I just know Castle Cove, it's all the cadets talk about, the young people of the sport. They are so excited, and that's what's going to keep them in the sport.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to talk about this new discipline in the Olympics of kiting? And it'll be back in LA and presumably in 2032.
I would like to add something.
Please.
So the IOC is all about the show, and kiteboarding is visually appealing. It is giving a spectacle that non-sailors are finding attractive. And even if we forget all the other attributes, like that it is the fastest sport in the Olympic Games, not only the fastest sailing, but the fastest of all sports, it looks really cool. And I think that this is something that has been added to sailing by including kiteboarding. And that's, I think it's priceless.
Good point. Very good point. Okay. And we know that the IOC is very interested, maybe too interested, some would say. As Clark Chapin, who's in the comments, likes to say, it's a television show, not a sporting event anymore, but it is what it is. And if we're going to keep our beloved sport in the Olympics, we have to play along a little bit, at least, with some of the IOC's desires. Let me David Price. There's Pricey is on from down in presumably Australia, the father of Olivia Price and Harry Price. Give your beloved wife a huge hug for me, Christiane, on this Valentine's Day. Well, it's the day after down there. Huge interest in foiling now. The Moth Worlds in Garda, 6 to 13 July, opened their entry overnight with 240 entries available, and in 4 hours, half have been taken up. That's an astonishing number, David Price. Thank you. Anybody? Well, let's push on here. We can do a lot of gas bagging here at the end. Let me play this next video, which is at least here in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, and I think beyond, we have a new discipline that is growing partly because it's less expensive, partly it's a little easier to do, and partly because it's bloody fast. And that is, well, here, have a look at the video. Wing foiling.
Yeah.
And this is their 2025 World Tour. They've already had an event or two, including indoors in Dusseldorf in Germany. You'll see it here in a sec. Set of kites, they're holding the wings in their hands. There's the Dusseldorf show last month. Then they're in Cape Verde, then Abu Dhabi. And I chose this video not to promo their tour, but to show the various aspects of this rapidly growing discipline. Okay, who is our wing foiling expert on the panel? Helena, how about taking okay, we're going to come to Marina first. I see him.
Yeah.
It's like those videos where on TikTok videos where the two kids are together and there's some questions. They say, who likes to be the big spoon? And they kind of point to see, and who's more tidy, did you see that? Those two lovebirds there? Huh?
Never mind.
Okay.
Okay, so the video showed us some events, and there are even more events happening, about to happen with wing foiling. We have two circuits. One is taking care of expression disciplines of wing foiling, and the other one is taking care of racing disciplines of wing foiling. I'm in charge of the tour of the racing discipline, and indeed it is growing very, very fast. It has some advantages compared to other foiling classes. It needs less space. You take your equipment on the plane, so it is easy to carry. And we see a lot of sailors from other classes or big boats just having their wing foiling kit and going to play. We start to get a lot of sailors that dropped out of windsurfing, because the Olympic windsurfing now needs a much heavier body type than the RSX, so we get a lot more
the
people.
former Olympic windsurfer.
Exactly,
and it's really, you got to. I mean, you looked at Max and how much he put on. He just bulked right up, right, and hung his butt over the side of the board.
And additional to that is a great pathway to any foiling class, because it is easy to start, and then from there you move on.
Which class, okay. Marina, sorry, which class is the good pathway or entryway into foiling in general?
Wing foiling.
Wing foiling.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of questions coming in here. Luca Craig down in Auckland is saying, I would have thought winging would have been considered for the Olympics as very accessible with respect to gear and uptake of the sport. Jody Shields in Australia is saying, hello all. Wing foiling will be the downfall of kiting in the Olympics. And Alistair Murray, Mr. President Emeritus of Australian Sailing, saying, I think foiling is a brilliant addition to our sailing world, but kiting is problematic as difficult, dangerous, and incredibly short lifespan fragility of the kites. Winging is better hands down. Let's go to our panel, starting with John Emmett. Tell us about winging versus kiting, John.
I mean, the one thing I was going to say from a commentator's point of view, and I realise that's the smallest thing, but the kiting, it's really easy to see who's who when they have the country flags and stuff. But I was just going to ask a question, actually.
Well, hang on, John, if I may, because that's one of the criticisms of kiting is that the athletes down here on the water and the kite's up in the air, and it's really hard for the television, which is important. Hey, we're talking about that, right?
Well, Adam Sims and his team did an amazing job covering both. And I think it probably helps that he's a windsurfing world champion, so knows where to be. But my understanding is that the IQ foils and the kites have just reduced the sail size very slightly for the next cycle to make it a bit more accessible. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, both IQ foil, they went to 8 meters, so 1 square meter down for the men, and to the youth sail for the women. And for kites, we also have reduced the maximum sail sizes to bring the body weights down.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel? It gets better. Anybody else on the panel want to talk about the wing foiling versus kiting? I won't call it a controversy, as you Brits would say, controversy. But Helena, what do you think?
I haven't done either personally, so take it with a grain of salt. But I do think it's a natural progression for the Olympics to want the wing foiling as an equally fast, exciting spectacle, and it's more accessible, and they're also all about country participation. So it's probably a natural progression to eventually have wing foiling in the games instead of kiting. But I think that you'll also find that a lot of kiters just want great racing and won't be too married to the actual kites themselves.
Great. Helena, thank you for that. Hattie, do you have a view on this?
Well, I think it's really cool what's happening with winging at the moment. We've seen definitely at the Moss Worlds venue, a lot of the Moss sailors are still winging up there. So it's helping their Moss sailing as well. But I've never kited and I've winged once, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But I'm living with Ellie at the moment, and it's been quite interesting hearing how the maximum kite size has kind of developed and what's happening at the moment in the class.
Well, as Clark Chapin, who is from our little pond in Michigan where I grew up, he knows that my brother Paul, who lives in Maui normally and has done everything from windsurfing to kiting to now wing foiling. And my brother Paul, for one, says that's something you can do in light air, heavy air, and all over the place. I see several of you nodding your heads yes. And maybe, Luca, how about you? You're right at the heart of this foiling fest. Is the wing foil going to replace the kite, do you think?
Well, I think I'm not sure if it's needed to replace the kite, but for sure wing should have a spot because of how many users you have around the world. It's certainly it's to me, I can see like it's the windsurf of the 80s. It's common across a wide number of people. We see, as Helena said and Hattie said, there are a lot of sailors in the mod and in the wasp and in every other foiling classes that they also do winging. And I think this is phenomenal. The ability to be used by lots of people with different skills. What I think is the difficulty here is that foiling development speed is faster than the ability of war sailing to catch up with what is on the wave of the sport.
Good point.
By the time they realize something is going well, the process to analyze what is the next best equipment takes another 4 years, and then another 4 years to get announced. And by then, the discipline could be already be gone.
Yeah, that's what Julia is saying. Yeah. And Luca Craig, again, down in Auckland, saying before the start of the Sail GP in Auckland, they had wingers sailing and doing tricks in front of the stand that were very impressive. One other cool comment that's come in, Helena, you've got a big fan in Commodore Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. And she says, Helena Scott rocks, in caps with an exclamation point. I'm a big fan. So I don't know if she's blushing at that, but that's a nice comment from the...
Right back at you, Claire.
She is terrific. She plays her cards right, as you all know. She'll probably be the next Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. and the first female Commodore in the long and storied history of that club. By the way, she has, did you know this, Julia? She has a new nickname, courtesy of Magnus the Magnificent, MTM.
Oh, yeah.
He called Claire in at his blog post a 3 days ago about women in sailing and so on, and how women in sailing is, I mean, just look at our panel.
I know.
How women in sailing is going north. And again, all of us are big supporters of that, including and especially Andrew Pindar and John Emmett and so on. But Claire has been called by Magnus CTB. You know what that means?
I've forgotten.
Claire the Brilliant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And she's gotten a lot of ribbing in the last couple of days at meetings at the New York. Claire, so next time you see her, Helena, call her CTB, Claire the Brilliant. Will you please? She's not sure she likes it, but I think she probably secretly does. And she is brilliant.
She is.
Let's go look at another discipline. Now, this is not Olympic, but it is perhaps the most popular discipline. These are the wasp and well, there's several other flavors of wasp, but also the moth. And we've got the current world champion in Hattie Rogers here, and that is a photo of Hattie, is it not, Hattie? Winning the Wasp Worlds?
Yeah, that was in Melbourne. So that was at the end of, when was it? 2023 in December. It was a fantastic event down there at the Worlds, and yeah, my first world title.
And is the Wasp is a more one design version of the moth? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, completely. It's a much more accessible boat than the moth, and it's one design racing, so you kind of come off the line with 80 other boats that are identical, which is really cool and slightly different to the moth. And then we just had the Moth Worlds in Manly, which both Helena and I were competing at, which was another epic event. Pretty strong win, but it was good.
We covered that here on Sailing Illustrated extensively, both before, during, and after the regatta. Congratulations to you both. And here is a video of you, Hattie, at that event.
We're here in Manly, New Zealand for the Predict Win Moth World Championships 2024. I can't wait to get racing. We've got 75 boats competing and it's going to be a fantastic event. I think the favourites for the Moth Worlds this year are probably likely to be Matthias Coutts and Jake Pye. They've done really well in the Oceania pre-Worlds, and I think they're just so solid around the track, and you've got to be so accurate and precise in these boats, and they're just smashing it. So the forecast for this week is pretty fresh. We've had 2 really windy days and they've all been southwesterly, so it means it's kind of flat, but yeah, pretty big. Especially, tomorrow's the first day and it's looking like it's going to be really windy, so I guess we'll see if we go racing or not. But I'm really looking forward to getting out there on the racetrack. The Oceanas was a fantastic event, run really, really well by Harold and the team, and it's just so professional down here, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into the event. Goals wise, I really hope to make Gold Fleet. That's my goal. It's going to be tough with some epic sailors down here. You've got people from the America's Cup, you've got people that have won Olympic medals and world championship titles, and it's going to be pretty awesome event. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what I can do, and yeah, looking forward to getting on the line tomorrow, hopefully.
Well, you did great. You won the women's division, and what did you finish overall? Like 25th or something?
I think I was a little bit further back than that. I made Gold Fleet, which was epic, and that was a goal for the regatta. I think I was 34th or something.
34th.
But yeah, I unfortunately had some foil problems, like some of the rest of the fleet, unfortunately. So hopefully that gets ironed out for Garda. But it's really exciting. They've just opened the Garda entries, as was mentioned earlier. And, we've already got like 140 entries or something. And it's just absolutely stacked with Sail GP and America's Cup names. I think Goody's back, maybe even Slingers. It's just epic. You don't really get a fleet like it, really, outside Olympics.
Helena, somebody named Coutts won that Worlds that you and Hattie were sailing in. Down at the Manly, the Manly Boat Club, the Manly Sailing Club up on the North Shore.
Manly Sailing Club.
Up on the North Shore, north of Auckland. This kid Coutts, my wife and I, when we were all living in Valencia back prior to the 2010, was it? maybe even earlier than that, cup. We used to babysit the Coots kids. They lived around the corner from us out in the suburbs. In the out in the what is the Spanish word? Urbanización. So we babysat Matthias Coots, and now he's the world champion in the moth. Alistair Murray's asking, please ask Hattie or Helena, maybe you can tell us, what do you think Matthias Coots's moth or the top moths cost these days?
Yeah, do you really want to know? I would say right now, moth sailing is not very accessible, and I think the class is there's definitely a lot of internal discussion about how to address that. But a new moth ready to race the worlds, you can pretty easily spend 50 to 60,000 US dollars.
Wow.
It depends. Yeah, it depends a lot on. You can race with 2 sets of foils, so if you get an extra main vertical and an extra rudder vertical and horizontals for each, and you can have 2 sails and 2 masts. So you can see how costs increase quickly for a number of reasons, but it's there's still a large appetite for it. So maybe the class will reach a critical point and have to figure out how to scale back. But right now, it's still a very competitive and high demand class.
Luca, are you involved in this event at Lake Garda in what is it, the early part of July, the next Moth Worlds? Luca?
No, I'm not. No, I've been president of the class for 7 years and VP for 1, and I resigned from VP at the last AGM, so I have no longer a seat in the executive committee.
Okay.
So I'm not involved with the Garda event.
Can one of you tell us how fast, what's the top speed these days for moth? And I used to, believe it or not, I used to sail a moth too, but that's when they were tunneled hull. That was a radical concept, going from a displacement monohull to a tunnel hull moth back in, I don't know, the 60s or the 70s. But Greg Phillips is saying, yeah, it's an $80,000 Australian, 80,000 Aussie for a moth. How fast are they going? What's the top speed? Who can tell us that?
I think one of the Aussies went 39 knots in Manly, so pretty quick. And that's with the new steel verts. So I think the horizontals are going through a bit of a redesign at the moment because for that the flaps are struggling. So that's kind of all in the works at the moment for Garda. Okay, well, it is expensive, obviously, but I've got one more thing to show you from that video, because speaking of Magnus the Magnificent, he calls you. He wanted to be on today, but he's one of his kids is on what we would call midterm and what the Brits call half term, midway through the term, and they're on a skiing trip. But Magnus calls you, quote, the face of the foiling generation. Is that true? Oh, he's been saying this for a year or so. I don't know. I'd like to see myself as pushing this pathway, and I don't know. I've come through the 29er and then the Wasp and the Moth, and I don't know if I call myself the face of the foiling generation, but I'd like to think that I'm really pushing foiling forwards. Well, I think you are indeed. The faces of the foiling generation are all here on our panel, or at least a good share of them, thanks to John Emmett, who put this panel together. We're about 53 minutes into this show. I promised we wouldn't keep the gang more than an hour because they've all got things to do, including late at night in Greece. A couple other photos, if I may show you, and then we want to look at one other discipline, if you will. This is, Helena, this is you in New Zealand at the Worlds, is it not?
Almost. That was at the Weymouth Worlds in 2023.
The Weymouth Worlds?
Yeah, the one that wasn't quite a Worlds, unfortunately.
You didn't have any wind for most of that week, right?
We did have a little bit, and we got 2 races off, and you can see in one of them I did that port start in that first photo, so that was a highlight. But there was a lot of time on shore, I will say that.
Did you cross the fleet? It looks like you're about to.
Yeah, I crossed everyone I needed to, and it was It was a good race until I picked the wrong bottom mark, sailed off into a lull.
This is not an American show. We probably have more non-Americans watch the show than in the thousands who do, either live or in replay. But is foiling a big deal in the States? Is it growing? Is it level? Is it falling off? What's your assessment, Helena Scott?
Well, actually at this Melgus Water Sports Center this weekend, they have a, I can't remember what they're calling it, but they have a foiling clinic and they're sailing the Nikki and the Skeeta, and they have a switch down here. And I see these kids, there's this, I think he's 8 or 9 years old. And the other day he was washing off the Nikki and making sure it looked great. And it was just so cool to see this kid taking such great care of a boat that he was really excited to go sailing at such a young age. So yeah, I think foiling in the US is growing, and the Moth class is definitely having a good resurgence right now, and everyone's looking forward to Foiling Week in Pensacola. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the US. There's a lot of interest. In 2022, I ran a women's Intro to the Moth clinic in Mission Bay in San Diego, and we had 17 women. Everyone got foiling over the weekend. We had 7 moths, and it was just the best, one of the highlights of my sailing career, honestly.
Yeah, and Steve Atkins, Commodore Atkins, up at the Madison Beach Club in Connecticut, past Commodore there, he's saying Ned Goss, it's a name I don't know, Ned Goss set 36.5 knots in Charleston in his moth, so they are quick. And you all are really blazing new trails, new ground for our beloved sport. And not everybody agrees, but to each his own. And I think that's one of the cool things about our sport, Julie, is that we've got everything from foiling to offshore racing, and we even have some offshore foilers now. We'll probably get Andrew McIrvin to tell us about, what's that, Nikita, Flying Nikita, the Maxi. I want to show this video, and this is apropos Sail GP, because Sail GP now has the new T-foils since the Auckland regatta of last month. And it's made a big change in those boats. We saw them again in Sydney last weekend. Have a look at this video.
I think the great thing with Sail GP is the class keeps evolving. Here we are, T-foil's first event in Auckland. The T-foil is a lot more efficient in the water. We went from carbon to titanium, so that means we can go for a thinner cord and shape. We can cavitate later, so we can push the speeds higher than 100 kilometers per hour.
7, 8. Oh, wow. Oh. Yes.
Oh, wow. Smashed it. Nice.
Okay, so I'm not going to play this. There's San Francisco, Julia. I'm not going to play the entire video, but you get the idea that the America's Cup, Sail GP, the Olympics, and much more now are foiling.
We've seen out here in the last couple of days in Auckland.
Thanks in large part to some of the people on this panel, if not all of them. And I'm going to switch now to Foiling Week, speaking of people on this panel who've led the way. And Luca, maybe you can tell us about what happened Foiling Week last year in Lake Garda, and then what's coming up in Pensacola. I actually have both videos, as you know. Let's start with last year at Garda, Foiling Week.
We enabled more networking and more collaboration to drive whatever pillar it is within the industry, whether it's
go ahead if you want to voice over this.
Showcasing new sports. So
happy to. Basically, last year was one of the largest events with 450 entries, and we had lots of new disciplines like the one we see here. We had the downwind SUP, we had the pump foiling. Because let's say one thing that we see is that foiling is expanding into a lot of different niches, and Foiling Week, of course, was started in the sailing side of the sport, but we are always looking at every possibility of going foiling. So even if it's not strictly sailing, and we are using for example, legs or waves or something else, we are happy to promote that part of the sport, because the reality is that the majority of the sailors of the boarders, they like to do foiling in all different aspects. The event this year is going in 2025. We'll have, just to give you an idea, we are capping the WASP and the moths to 150 each.
150.
So we are each. So we are expecting 300 between the wasp and the moths. And then there's another probably 200, 250 of other type of boats that are coming, including the ETF, the switch, the birdie fish. They are going to have the first World Championship during following week. We're going to have, what else? The Nikki. We're going to do a special event with them. And we are going to carry on our usual initiatives dedicated to women and kids to make sure that they have the possibility to experience foiling within the event. That's Garda.
And then coming up is Foiling Week in Pensacola, and Tom Pace is a good friend of ours. He's a foes. He's on the show, usually watching the show, and we'll get him on maybe during Foiling Week Pensacola to talk about this big new event down there. Tell us about that if you want to voice over. I'll play the video maybe first, and then come back to you, Luca. Let's look at this promo. Luca, that's coming up in just a couple weeks' time in Pensacola, Florida, up on the Panhandle. You'll be there?
Yes, of course I will be there. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's we have been to the US before COVID times in 2016 in Newport and in 2018 in Miami. But I would say that was probably a bit too early for the US foiling scene. The majority, there were moths and some A classes, but not really much more. I think now, as Elena was saying, the foiling community, the moths and the wasp, I think the situation is quite different. They probably reached, I think the US has reached the critical mass, which is needed to start developing big events like Foiling Week. That can, of course, become an accelerator to make sure that there is further development in numbers and participation. What is unique about Pensacola is that it's a wide body of water with super flat conditions, thanks to the Santa Rosa Island, which is this, let's say, sandbar island that protects basically the bay from the waves of the Gulf. This gives us also,
for Luca, for extra credit, what's the name of the bay? Julia, do you know? It's not Pensacola Bay. This is the Sailing Illustrated University. Some people call this. It's called Escambia.
Escambia County.
Escambia County. It's called Escambia Bay. So you've got that in 2 weeks' time. Let's go around the panel and wrap this up because I promised you we're now at 14:03 here in San Francisco. It's after midnight in Greece. Let's let our friends in Greece get off here first. Marina and Marcus, what do you think of what's coming up with these foiling weeks? And just give us the big picture worldwide on foiling in our beloved sport, if you would, in summary. Marina?
Yeah, so in foiling,
they're in a hotel. The connection's not perfect. Let's go try again, Magnus or Marcus. Go ahead, please.
Are we back?
Yeah, I think we got you.
Okay, we try again. I mean, foiling is exploding. We see that everywhere. Foiling Week is growing, and our class events are growing. More and more people. I wanted to address just one thing that came up in the comments on Facebook. Accessibility, we heard, was a most cost, and the kites have become expensive. I think that is part of the game of foiling. Foiling is expensive. Small differences cost money. and accessibility and cost is a big topic in the Olympic discussion. And that is in constant discussion in world sailing. And in terms of wing foiling, also that will become expensive. So don't think because you can get it for $500 in the shop, that's not what's going to happen in the Olympics. Whatever you put the rings on, it's going to be expensive. So we have to find a way how to make Olympic sailing more accessible. And that applies, I think, for whatever is foiling and non-foiling.
Marcus Fentner, thank you very much. Marina Sikujiu, do you want to wrap up?
So, yeah, everyone has agreed that foiling is growing. I saw some comments about traditional sailing. Foiling is not stealing the people from traditional sailing. Traditional sailing is strong. It's going on in the clubs. There is a big infrastructure for that. Foiling is bringing more people, new people, and that is something that we need. So don't shoot against foiling, embrace it.
Good point.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Nice point. Let's ask Helena for her final thoughts. Helena Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a foiling addict, so you're not going to convince me otherwise, but I will say that foiling is very athletically demanding. It's also really cool to see people of all ages going winging, for example. But yeah, maybe when foiling gets a little hard on our bodies, then maybe you'll go back to more keelboat sailing. I don't know. But I do think that I agree with Marina that it's making the pie bigger for everybody and more people on the sport, more people enjoying the water. So I don't see them as foiling or non-foiling as particularly at odds. And I just want to see people enjoying racing, enjoying our environment, enjoying the water.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think we see people leaving displacement traditional sailing to go foiling. I think people leave, as John has been telling us for weeks, months, maybe years now. He gets in off the water with his, mentees, whomever he's coaching. They want to go foiling. It's not like they're not doing the other thing. There may be some, and not everyone will agree that it's bringing new people into the sport. But let's see what Hattie Rogers thinks. Hattie?
I completely agree with what's already been said. We are seeing more and more youth and junior sailors doing it alongside their oppies, their 29ers, their 420s. And I think that's really cool to see. They're just doing lots of different sailing. When I was growing up, I was always told to do lots of different boats, and you learn so much from each boat. And I think that's really cool to see. And I think just going forwards, it's just making sure that foiling is really catering for everyone still. I think in the WASP class, especially, there's at the start, when I came into WASP, there was quite a lot of an age range, I guess, from I don't know, someone that's 12 up until 60. And I think it's just really important that we don't lose that with performance. And yeah, it just caters for everyone.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Luca, final thoughts?
Well, foiling will only be growing, so I can only be happy about that. And as I think everybody agrees, we are not taking away from the rest of the sport. We are just helping it survive and grow. It's a new opportunity. I think that sailing is lucky to have.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Some people think that you ought to be a separate sport, not just a separate discipline, but actually go away and be the world foil sailing, whatever you're going to call it. But let's don't get into that today, because I've kept you all an hour and 8 minutes, and we'll ask John Emmett, who is not much of a foiler, but he is obviously an Olympic coach and our regular Coaching Corner contributor. There, CCC here to our show. John Emmett, take us home.
I mean, I would say I'm definitely a non-foiler. I just see the big picture at how good it is for getting people on the water. In fact, if somebody's telling me keelboats are kinder on the body, I should probably go that way before I'm just completely wrapped in compression tape. I'm acutely aware that Hattie needs to go on the water, but one of the really interesting things from her with me was this decision, 470 or going foiling. And I think that will be an interesting wrap up if she doesn't mind.
Hattie, do you want to wrap that up?
Oh, what between going Olympic or foiling?
Going
That was a
Olympic
very big life
470
decision.
versus.
I mean, I did look at the 470. For me, it was an interesting one because I was kind of going to uni at the same time. So I wanted to do uni properly and get my engineering degree. I know Helena did an engineering degree as well. And I guess that's a separate conversation. We see so many people with engineering degrees in our sport. And I think that's really cool. And that's something that we definitely have gone towards. Like, you've got time in sailing. So get the degree done. And then I've kind of come back to sailing. But yeah, I think I'm just enjoying my sailing at the moment. So that's the main thing.
Well, congratulations to all of you. It's fantastic. I think a good comment here from Blake Middleton as a wrap up. He's saying all good comments from our experts about value of simply adding to the sport, not replacing what already works well. And maybe Blake, who's up in Minnesota where the 10,000 lakes are frozen. Julia.
Right.
Maybe we let Blake tell us, I mean, he will tell us, I grew up in Michigan where the lakes are frozen too, that ice boating does not detract from sailing. Yeah, there are some people who only do ice boating, but there are also some people who do both. In fact, most people do both hard water sailing, as we call it, and then soft water sailing. Mm-hmm. And I suspect, as our panel's been telling us here today, this morning, if you're down under, exactly the same thing. Going to do both. Some are going to do one or just the other. I hope, gang, I hope all of you, I know that all of you on the panel are, but I hope all of our foiling colleagues around the world are contributing to the sport, whether it's foiling or otherwise, helping run races, helping organize racing at the clubs, helping organize events, social or otherwise, as I know all of you are doing, because we all know that at the end of the day, our sport is largely volunteer. And without the volunteers across the board, we don't really have the sport as we know it. John, take us home.
I'm always a favour of more pie, or however we explained it. But for those people who haven't tried foiling, give it a go. It's a lot of fun, and you're never too old to learn new tricks.
Send us a video of you foiling, please. We'll use it on the show.
If you look, the link is in the comments of me going out to switch for the first time and Lily laughing at me.
Okay. Curse is foiled again. Curse is foiled again has been our show today with our expert panel from around the world. Thanks again to John Emmett for pulling it together. Hattie Rogers, who's normally in the UK, but she's down in New Zealand now. Is that right, Hattie?
Yep, that's right. Here for another couple of weeks.
And Luca, thank you very much for coming on from Italia, our foiling guru. If there is such a person, it is Luca in the world. Helena Scott here in the States. She's down in Florida right now, and Marina and Marcus in Greece. What an international panel. Thank you all very much indeed. Andrew Pindar is on. He says, unfortunately, I feel as though I've eaten all the pies. That's a good wrap up. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Excellent.
And,
thank you. Bye.
We'll carry on. If anybody wants to stay with us, you're more than welcome as we continue with the second 45 minutes of our normal approximately 2-hour show. I have some America's Cup news for all of you in our AC38 Cup date. There was Julia, get this. You're going to like this.
Yes.
There was, this morning, there was a Zoom call of the teams. Here are the representatives on that. So look at Claire Harrington's going, how did you get that picture? Those are the team representatives on the AC38 Zoom call this morning. I have on my sources. Are you impressed?
I'm impressed.
Huh?
I'm impressed.
Look carefully, Julia. Can you see who those people are? You'll see in the show notes at the end, I've given the Vatican a credit.
The Pope.
That's the Pope. That's Grant Dalton dressed in white up there in the upper left. Now, they did have a Teams meeting. I'm teasing, but I couldn't obviously get a video or an image or video of their meeting. But the Vatican, if the Vatican's using Zoom, why can't the America's Cup teams use Zoom? But there was not any real news coming out. They're still discussing going forward and how they're going to go forward given the continuing S fight between the two knights. but one does hear certain things. I see John Emmett still with us in the Zoom. So, John, if you want to chime in here, let me know. But speaking...
I was just going to run.
What's that? You going to run? Okay. You going to run to that bar behind you? What time is it there? 9:15 in the morning?
Yeah, I'm Ilka coaching, and I know Hattie's coaching in New Zealand as well. So it was really good to get one together.
Thanks for putting it together. Okay, have a good sail. He's going to bypass that bar, it looks like, Julia.
Well, he hasn't done it yet.
He's going to bypass that bar. So back to the psst.
Yeah.
Psst. They're talking in that meeting about still trying to pull the cup off in 2027. I don't see how that's going to happen, folks. I mean, here it is, 2025, already February 2025. They were going to have pre-regatta starting last month. And putting a team together is really hard. And if they rush into a new America's Cup cycle in 2027, that will benefit only one team. That's the current defending champion, because they've got the keys to the castle. They've got the keys to the design program.
That's part of the deal.
That is part of the deal. There was discussion about racing the Cup, the AC38 in Greece. I've confirmed from multiple sources.
Yes.
There was discussion about doing it in Italia. But I think it's going to be in the Middle East. I still think it's going to be in the Middle East because they've got way more money on offer, upwards to 200 million somethings, US, euros, even British pounds, who knows. Yeah, next cup in that time frame, somebody needs their dosage adjusted, Clark Chapin is saying, yeah. So we shall see. But the Knights are still jousting. AC38 for Great Britain, the dueling Knights. But a lot of you think that this is the beginning of the end for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I had the lower third in our show on Tuesday. I said, will Sir Jim follow through with an AC38 challenge? And I would say today it's starting to feel like, sound like, look like it's can Sir Jim follow through with an AC38 challenge. This article, just before we went to air on the website of The Guardian, it'll be in the papers in England, I believe, tomorrow morning, unless it did already show up, but I believe it's tomorrow. An article by Nick Ames saying Ineos and Ratcliffe's sporting empire risks atrophy with horizons. I was going to say horizons. With horizons narrowing. The dream, the subhead, the dream of sharing expertise across 6 sports, hoping to be supreme in all, that was Sir Jim's dream, we think, was always likely to be a high wire act. And remember, he talked extensively about how there was going to be sharing between the Mercedes F1 team, the Ineos Mercedes F1 team, and the Ineos Britannia America's Cup team.
And there was.
And there was. There was. So we shall see. The article goes on. I'm just excerpting. It's a long article. Ratcliffe may claim force majeure, but the overriding point is that nobody needs an unreliable partner. A shocked Sir Ben Ainslie clearly felt that way last month when his Athena racing team promised, quote, significant legal and practical obstacles for Ineos after they announced they would part ways for this year's, well, it's not this year, but close enough, this year's America's Cup, the next America's Cup, whenever that may be. Ineos again lamented an inability to find common ground.
With Athena.
With Athena, with Sir Ben, exactly. The reasons for such an unceremonious split are unclear. At the outset of the relationship in 2018, partnering with the multiple Olympic champion Ainslie seemed the antithesis of dumb money.
Mm-hmm.
In spreading oneself too thinly, slimming down further, which is what apparently Ineos is doing, rarely offers a remedy. Doing so indiscriminately can match splurging dumb money for foolhardiness.
My goodness.
Especially when sport plays equally as heavily with hearts and balance sheets. The prevailing sense is Ratcliffe overreached and now controls a stock that is merely existing, I guess by implication, not necessarily climbing. Upon announcing their initial partnership with Mercedes auf Deutsch in April 2020, Ineos expressed, quote, a desire to instill in people the belief that there are no limits, unquote. As Ratcliffe's empire turns inwards, its credibility as the conveyor of that message increasingly looks in serious doubt. And that is Nick Ames writing today in the UK's Guardian newspapers and on their website. I thought you should see who Magnus the Magnificent calls the Chemical Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That is John Rees on the left, along with Sir Jim and Andy Curry, who are the senior people in Ineos, and who at least heretofore went along with Sir Jim in all these sporting endeavors.
Forgive me, but tell me who John Rees and Andy Curry are.
They're senior Ineos personnel.
Ah, okay.
Senior Ineos personnel. Okay, so much for all of that. Meanwhile, Sir Ben seems to be increasing his financial support. JP Morgan has been a sponsor, and they have just re-signed with the Sail GP team. And that branding was on the boat in Sydney, maybe before, but they have re-upped, and Ben announced that today, saying, this partnership is personally significant to me, given the close relationships formed throughout my racing career. I look forward to many more successes together. That announcement coming out earlier today, and Magnus the Magnificent also covered that in his column, which, by the way, on Rule 69, his Rule 69 blog on Substack, the headline was Diamond Geezers, Sponsorship Momentum Coursing Through the Outstanding Emirates Great Britain Team at Sail GP. And Magnus is a big fan of Sir Ben's. But so here is a big fan of Magnus. This is one of our Super Fozy writing in one simple paragraph. Magnus, has justified an entire year's worth of a subscription to his Substack Rule 69 blog. He says, and he's quoting from his article today. He's saying, this is Magnus saying, Ben played an absolute blinder in appointing Dylan Fletcher Scott first as the co-helm on the AC75 in Barcelona, where they won the LBC, and then as his anointed successor in Sail GP. I wish Ben had gotten off the boat and just let Dylan drive it with Giles Scott. What may seem like an obvious move in hindsight was, I suspect, a hard decision to make in reality, that is as between Dylan and Giles, a longtime friend of Magnus's and ally, losing out on both accounts. He's now, of course, with the Canadian Sail GP team, no connection to the British Sail GP owned by, the British Sail GP team owned by Ben. That's why Ben gets the big bucks, Magnus wrote. You have to make hard decisions, and I would hazard a guess that there's a cigarette's paper width between these two outstanding talents in terms of skill level genius. So that was sent to me by our Super Fozy, Rick Bannerow, who was giving a plug to Rule 69 blog, Magnus's Rule 69 blog.
I thought I read that this morning.
You did. That was a quote from his blog post today. Now, I'll tell you one more thing that one hears. Now, I'm not going to stake my life on this. I probably wouldn't even stake the ranch on it.
However,
there is a VC firm, a venture capital firm called Oakley Capital. And one hears that they are in the process of backing Sir Ben's new America's Cup effort and maybe a Sail GP team as well. They are the owners of the North Marine Group, North Sails, and more. So I'm not going to, again, stake my life on that, but I have checked around and I'm hearing the same from other well-connected sources. So stay tuned. You may be hearing North Sails, which of course, this Oakley Capital, which bought the other two major sailmakers in the world. And now they may be buying into Sir Ben's Sail GP and or America's Cup effort. So stay tuned. And again, I assert that the golden rule always applies, and that maybe the gold is accumulating with or accruing to. How was that, Julia? Were those good words for?
Oh yes, I'm proud of you.
Simple country boy from Michigan.
Oh yes, good.
I didn't go to Stanford. Accumulating with or accruing to Sir Ben. Maybe he's the one that's going to come out of this with the gold before it's over. Curses Foil again is our show today. Thanks again to John Emmett and that esteemed panel. John still weighs in with the Coach's Corner from Australia at one of the cool yacht clubs down there, one of the very cool yacht clubs in Australia, and have a look at his report today.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Welcome to Royal Brighton Yacht Club. This brings back a lot of memories. We actually stayed at the Quest Apartments back in 2011 when Lily won Sail Melbourne, and that was actually our first major regatta working together. And actually, apart from the Worlds, I think she won every regatta. That linked right up to Olympic Games and the Worlds. She was second, and that's possibly another motivator for the Olympic Games. But Royal Brighton, I've been here working with the Ilka class, probably no surprise there. And today, we're actually going to have a bit of a Q&A, nothing like Golden Lily, but unfortunately, we can't really go outside because it's about 30 knots. In fact, it's raining. So I'm sure the Aussies are going to tell me that I should feel right at home. But the clubs here are just so friendly and so popular. It makes a huge difference to grow the fleet. And if you actually join or work with both clubs, you can sail nearly every day of the week. I think Royal Brighton, they hosted some major regattas recently, especially thinking the Finn. I know there's a lot of Fozies a huge fan of the Finn class. And between here and Melbourne, between here and Sydney, there's just such a large amount going on. I mean, it's a beautiful club. Not so many people here today because I think probably there won't be any racing. But every day is about making the best of the situation. So I've gathered the sailors in quite close to the bar. That could be interesting. And I'm going to try and present a little talk. So here's my guys getting all ready for the Masters National Championships. So remember to sail fast, sail safe, and most importantly, have lots of fun.
John Emmett's report for today, Julia.
Yes.
Get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett Sailing, who does our coaching corner. Have you been to that club?
No, I haven't.
The Royal Brighton? I've been there not since the late 90s during Formula One days. And as Alistair Murray is kindly saying, of course, he's from Melbourne, the Royal Brighton is a great club, as is the Sandringham Yacht Club, the Sandy. And guess what? Not only are we not foiled, but we have an AAAA today.
Great.
From Alistair. And I'm not going to play the intro music because we've played it a lot lately, but have a look at Alistair's latest awesome Aussie anecdote.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. This is AAAA. That's Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote.
Got it.
Report for Sailing Illustrated. And I'm sitting here with Mark Welsh, Commodore of Sandringham Yacht Club. Big welcome. Thanks for coming. And also our mate John Emmett on my other side. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to get together and say hello to the Commodore and talk about why we're here and talk a bit about Sandringham Yacht Club in front of the Olympic rings because 1956 they're from.
1956, Finn class. So yeah, a bit about Sandringham Yacht Club.
So Mark, tell us all about why this is the best yacht club in the world. You don't need to convince me, but there's a lot of other people there that would like to hear it.
Well, I might have a bit of bias on that, but it is a great club, and we've been around for over 100 years now. And during that 100 years, just seen some amazing events being held, including the Finn class here at 56 Olympics. But the club itself, I think the great thing about it is just the diversity of the program that we have. We offer racing here right throughout the year, winter and summer. The diversity is keelboat racing, one design championships, off the beach classes. We have a great training program that's available as well using our new fleet of J70s that we've also got. And then off the back of that, we've got some outstanding facilities that we actually bring for the members' use. We've got a fantastic clubhouse here that we've recently expanded to an al fresco area. We've got a yard with everything you need to maintain your boats, and a marina out there that's probably a world-class marina. So you've really got everything here that a yacht club really needs. And back that up with 3,000 members who are just from very diverse backgrounds, really friendly, really great to work with. You'll always find yourself comfortable in the environment talking around boat stuff, which is what we're all here about at the end of the day.
Good on you, Mark. Yeah, you're doing a good job. I was going to ask you how many members you had. So you got to have 3,000. Yeah. And they run many great events here at the club, and we're here for one tonight. And John is one of the star attractions. But are you the star attraction tonight, John?
No, definitely not. But I just have to say I have some very fond memories of Melbourne. Because talking about running big events, the last time I was here, it was the Olympic trials for us, the Ilka World Championships for Tokyo 2020 or 2021. Tula won. The trials represent Finland, so we spent a lot of time training here, and I have some very fond memories of that. But yeah, I mean, here I'm basically here just to see my wife and make sure she recognises me.
And so what's on tonight?
So Lily's doing the Golden Lily talk. I'm always interested to see how much she remembers. And I think it's hopefully a really good inspiration for young up-and-coming sailors.
And let's hope she gives some credit to her coach for her outstanding successes. I actually saw her speak at Wallara Sailing Club last weekend when we were there for Sail GP, and she's a great speaker. And are you here for tonight? Or
I'm sticking around for tonight. Wouldn't miss it for the world. It's going to be fabulous.
You'll love it. I mean, Lily is just the most engaging character, the most wonderful woman, which is probably why you fell in love with her, John.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, it took her a little while to warm up to me. But she used to say, I don't think I could ever love a hairy man. But she managed to get over that. And the rest is history, as they say.
Okay, so that's one of the great events. We have many talks here. We've held some great champions. We had the Tazar Worlds here recently. That was a success.
I know somebody that was competing in that one. Very successful event.
Yeah, it was great. So, Mark, tell us about what's coming up. There's a few key events on the horizon.
Yeah, we've got a couple of key events coming up. Probably in the next one, not far away now, is we're co-hosting the Melbourne to Osaka double-handed race, which is quite an exciting event. We're looking forward to playing co-host with that. In 2026, we've got the J24 Worlds coming here, and any World Championships are a good one, but the J24, we're really looking forward. We've got a great fleet of J24s that operate out of here. And then a bit further out, we're actually going to be hosting the International Council of Yacht Clubs World Forum here in 2027. So we'll have a star-studded cast from yacht clubs around the world all coming here to Sandringham.
That's fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Mark. And before we sign off, we might just ask John, you having a good time in Melbourne?
I'm having a fantastic time in Melbourne. I know somebody who might be interested in doing the J24 words, so I'll have a quick chat with her. But yeah, the days have just flown by, and it's going to be quite hard going back to race in the UK, but there you go.
I've been trying my hardest to destroy John on the bike. How are we doing on that front?
I mean, it's all right. They all wear bright orange shirts, so I catch up eventually. But I think it's a really, really pro-sport country and culture. And the sailing here is amazing. I mean, the biggest thing I remember after the Sail GP, even the ladies doing the reception for the lounge were all asking us about the racing. So anything sailing-wise that appears to non-sailors is just, it says volumes.
That was amazing. That's all we've got time for. That's over and out from AAAA for this week. Wonderful having you with us, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And if you're in Melbourne, feel free to come down to Sandringham Yacht Club. We'd love to have you.
And bye from John.
Sail fast, sail safe, have fun.
See you guys. Bye.
Yeah. First of all, I think Gordon Smith's right. From now on, we're not going to call him John. We're going to call him Harry. Harry Emmett, the coaching corner with
That's
Harry
not
Emmett.
fair.
I think it's more than fair. And then people complaining. Several of you said, "Oh, those rings look a little
muted,
or what? That wasn't the word that somebody used, but." Bloody hell, they're from Alistair Murray, as he was watching, he said, yeah, they look rather faded. That's what Ryman said. Well, they're as old as I am, 1956, or almost. Huh? They're almost as old as I when they had the Olympics there in 1956. 56 in Melbourne. What a great town. It's really, I enjoy it. I don't know if the rest of you do, but I really enjoy seeing, learning about, finding out more about clubs around the world.
Yes.
And because they are well and truly the beating heart of our sport. And it doesn't have to be a big fancy club like they call it Sandy, like Sandringham Yacht Club or New York Yacht Club or tell me what. It can be a little club like our very modest little club on our pond in Michigan that Clark Chapin and I and Joe Holtzman and others all grew up at. So, okay, Bravo Zulu, thank you. By the way, Lily was a big hit. One hears. Everybody says this was on Tuesday night, and we don't have a video. They did not video her show. The evening with Golden Lily, but by all accounts, it was a huge success. We do have this video of her coming into the club. Just to give a little feel, it did happen. And look at the turnout. Another beautiful view of Sandringham Yacht Club. There's Mr. President Emeritus introducing her.
Yeah.
Posey all over the place, Julie. Look at the turnout.
Oh, wow. Great.
On a Tuesday night. What a great facility, too, eh?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to see that and get an idea of what was going on.
Yeah, that's neat.
Tuesday night at the Sandy. And thanks again to Alistair for another AAAA. I'll push the volume up here. You'll go a-waltzing Matilda with me. Okay, enough of all that madness. AAAA with Alistair Murray, as usual. Thank you very much. Now, Julia, I asked you what happened on this day in history on the 14th of February in 2010.
Well,
15 years ago.
It was America's Cup race.
Where? You're close. Where?
In
here's your first clue.
Valencia.
Correct. You win, Julia. You got the applause. You win. It was in Valencia. And here's the video.
It's the limits of what's possible in sailing in the 21st century. This is extreme sailing.
We'll probably never see something like this again, not in our lifetimes.
It was a quest, building the best possible team we could build, building the fastest possible boat, and seeing if we could bring the America's Cup back to America.
Human ingenuity with the oldest trophy in international sport at stake.
Larry Ellison said, the BMW Oracle sailing team is much better than yours.
It's quite funny coming from Larry Ellison. What is he gonna do if he loses?
Ernesto took the rules and just tore them up.
Ernesto, why are you doing this? It's like a heavyweight championship fight where the fighters don't like each other very much. And may the best team win.
The America's Cup. It is a race sailed across tides and generations.
Representing your country in an international sporting event? I get chills just talking about it.
In Valencia, Spain, the America's Cup on the line today.
For me, it's a dream come true.
USA 17 is flying. Look at her go.
It was really sort of knife edge.
Oh my goodness, that's too close for comfort.
Both boats were redlining the whole time.
The American team could be in trouble.
We thought we had a much faster boat.
Alinghi out in front. USA 17 playing catch-up.
We never should have let him get that separation.
There is no second place in competition in the game of life. First place is all there is.
It's
cruel fate,
Heart-pounding drama.
that luck plays a part.
USA is getting closer. Can they catch Alinghi? Here they come.
It's to some degree in the hand of the wind gods.
Incredible. Unbelievable. What a race.
It's amazing how young some of those people looked 15 years ago.
Even you. Yeah.
Håkan Håkansson was there too. What a waste of time and money. You know, Håkan, though, it was amazing because, okay, that's the trailer to the we did a feature. Larry and his son, David, did a feature film that, an hour long. You were there at the red carpet when we rolled that film out, right? But and what a voice Jeremy Irons has.
Oh, he does.
Basso profundo, cajones grandes.
Yes.
Fabulous stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Håkan, there is something to be said for the brilliance, the simplicity of the deed of gift that can produce a race like that with two disparate boats, very simple rules. Not much argumentation, arguing. There was a little bit, but not much. It was negotiations, and to their credit, Russell and his mate, Brad Butterworth, Brad was with Alinghi, and they worked out most of the racing stuff, and then Hamish Ross and I and Ernesto's lawyer worked out most of the other stuff because we were on opposite sides. And then to see that first race, especially a couple of you have said, it was just astonishing. Second race was still a close race. They were close races with completely different boats produced by the same rule, the deed of gift.
Yes.
Very simple rule.
I remember. Yes.
And today, what would they be? Foiling somethings between, I guess, 60 and 90 feet, who knows? The wind gods from 15 years ago. 2 races. First race was 2 days ago. Second race was today, the 14th, Valentine's Day 2010, this day in history. Larry was on the boat for the second race. Russell was not on the boat for either race. Jimmy Spithill was driving both. And Oracle, what were we called? BMW Oracle Racing?
I think so.
I can't remember. I think we changed to Oracle BMW. I think we were BMW Oracle, and then Larry said, put Oracle in front. I paid for Oracle.
Of course.
And then ultimately, O2, so Oracle Team USA, BMW was out for the next cup. There it is, this day in history, 14th February 2010. Clark Chapin has kindly put the link to the full movie that does appear on YouTube.
If you haven't seen it, it's fun to look at least once.
It is. And no, there's nothing in there about what happened on the race committee boat on the start today, 15 years ago today, the start of the second race, when the Société Nautique Genève, SNG, officials who were manning the race committee boat for the PRO, the principal race officer, who was Harold Bennett. Harold was in charge, but they all went on strike at the start of the race, and they went below, and they said, we're not going to help you put the flags up and do all the necessary stuff. So Harold Bennett, the Kiwi principal race officer, pressed the rest of. I was there as the observer from Golden Gate Yacht Club. Just there, keep my mouth shut, as hard as that is for me to do. But just sit and watch and be sure it was on the up and up. Their club also had an observer,
right?
Lucian Majmahan, who was Ernesto's private attorney at the time, and he had a sat phone. He could talk to the guys on the boat, and the boat was telling him, don't start the race, don't start the race. We think we're at a disadvantage. And Lucian told that in French to the other race officials, and they went on strike, and they went below on this big gin palace that was the race committee boat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Harold, that's what that picture, that big photo is here in the reception here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. That's from Harold Bennett saying, thanks, Tom. Take that AP flag down, because he told me he didn't have enough people. I said, well, I'll go take the AP flag down.
Yeah.
And I went back, pulled it down, the television captured it all. And he put his local Spanish guys into action. They swung into action. The people who were driving the boat and the radio guy, because the other race committee guys went on strike. And I took down the AP flag.
What were they protesting?
Well, because their team, Alinghi didn't want them to start the race. It was too light or too something.
Oh.
Sea state or something. The trimaran is now on display at Oracle headquarters. Well, it was. Is it still? But the PRO, yes, Blake Middleton, the PRO did the right thing. Okay, enough of all that. We get that, gets us to the last leg. And I actually have 3 cool videos for the last leg, all short. We're still going to be under 2 hours, but 3 good short videos. The first one from Hong Kong, the Sun Hung Kai. You've heard that before.
Yes.
The regatta is about to end. It ends on the 16th, so in a couple more days. But it's a fabulous Hong Kong Race Week regatta. Here's the video.
I'm excited for this regatta. It seems like a great event and the wind seems to be pretty good, so hopefully I have fun.
It's always one of the best events of the year, so very, very excited going into the first race day.
So I'm racing at Terror today. It's meant to be quite windy. This should be quite exciting.
I'm hoping for maybe top 5 or top 3. Other than that, I'm not expecting too much.
That a great shot.
Yeah.
That's a great video.
Wow.
That video just out today. The regatta has a couple more days to go. Of course, it's Saturday down there now, so 11th through the 16th, Hong Kong Race Week, one of the biggest such regattas in Asia. So cool
Do we
stuff.
know how many boats are there? It looked like 300.
You know, I just didn't have time. I love to know the number of boats and the number of countries. I don't think it was 300.
Yeah.
But Ted Ryman agrees, a nice vid.
It is.
And then we now go, Julia, to Greece. We go from Hong Kong. We're going west to Greece now, and this regatta starts on the 21st. But what a cool looking event this is in Opties. That regatta has been going on for 9 years. This is the 10th, excuse me, 10th edition of that event of this big Opti regatta. Thanks to Icarus Sports, with whom we're in contact. They're going to send us a lot of good stuff. Yeah, there were some rules 18 and 31 there, Clark. Yeah, there were a couple of problems there. But the kids are having a great time. It's a big event, and
I need to know what rules 18 and 31 are.
Well, one was the windward leeward hit. There was a windward leeward contact, I think, and there may have been a couple others. Clark can call you afterwards and fill you in personally. The rules expert that he is, thanks to Icarus Sports for that. Now, this is the strangest damn video I've seen. Thank you to a couple of you for sending it along. But the U.S. Sail GP team, as we told you on Tuesday, has a new sponsor. And now they have a video announcing that sponsor.
Hi, I'm Mike Buckley, two-time world champion sailor, CEO, and co-owner of the U.S. Sail GP team. It's great to be here today, especially by the pool, a place that combines the best of performance and relaxation. This setting is perfect to talk about the partnership between the US Sail GP team and BeatBot, the world's #1 high-end robotic pool cleaning brand. I've always believed that achieving greatness comes from balance, whether it's in sport, technology, or life. And that's what this partnership is all about. Like the water here, it's about pushing boundaries, finding that perfect flow, and striving for the unbeatable. BeatBot's commitment to innovation, sustainability, and excellence aligns perfectly with our own drive to push the limits and achieve greatness, both on and off the water. At the US Sail GP team, we're driven by passion for performance, precision, and pushing the limits. BeatBot shares that same spirit. The latest AquaSense 2 series reflects this mindset, taking pool care to a whole new level with AI-driven innovation and effortless usability. This partnership isn't just about sailing or technology. It's about a shared belief in striving for something greater, breaking boundaries, and creating what's truly remarkable. Here's to the unbeatable.
I don't know, Julia. I just... USA Sail GP team and BeatBot, egads, J. Frederick Bland is saying. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I will say something related. And that is that I think American Magic, to be competitive in the next Cup, assuming they're going forward, and that's not a done deal, but let's hope that they do. New York Yacht Club, Claire Harrington, and so on. It's not April 1st. It's not April Fool's Day. It's BeatBot, the sponsor. I thought when I first saw that video, I wasn't sure. I knew it was the real thing because I'd seen the announcement earlier. But otherwise, if not, I would have thought somebody Mike Buckley was spoofing all of us when he walked out. But oh my Roomba fell in the pool. You know what the Roomba is, Julia? That's that self-vac thing that will vacuum your
automatic
house or your apartment.
Yeah.
But it's not the money, it's the amount, Clark Chapin is saying. But back to what I do think New York Yacht Club should buy that team. It's not the Facebook guy, it's the Uber guy who bought the team and owns it and put Mike and Taylor, I think probably brought this guy in. But I think Sail GP is the proving ground now for the America's Cup. I think we've seen that, and we're going to see it even more in spades. And I think New York Yacht Club needs to buy that, or American Magic needs to buy that team, Sail GP team, clear out, maybe keep some of them, put their own people on the boat, keep some of those that are already there, and get on the Sail GP circuit ASAP if you're going to be competitive in the next Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Ryman's going to keep to his creepy crawly. So tell me if I'm wrong. Claire Harrington says I'll get my checkbook out.
Okay.
Good for her. She could probably afford it too. Knowing Claire is a person of brilliance and resource, Julia.
So what more can one ask?
What more could one ask? That gets us to the D block. Julia, on this Valentine's Day, you think we have any Valentine's jokes today?
Sure.
Yeah, of course we do. First of all, though, and you've been making jokes about it through the entire show, the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I can confirm now that it's now, when you do a Google map search, they now are using Gulf of America.
I would say Gulf of Americas, and there would be no...
Well, it'd be less of a concern.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's North America. We went through this on Tuesday.
You went through it.
Well, but it's, whoops, that didn't work very well, did it? Huh? It's Gulf of North America. Mexico is in North America. Below Mexico is Central America. Below Central America is South America. So that is the Gulf of North America, or Gulf of America, but there's more. They started coming in. This now is a suggestion from the governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont, saying we should change the name of Long Island Sound to Connecticut Sound. Connecticut's bigger than Long Island.
Yes.
So maybe that came from Peter Taylor.
Who's a New Yorker.
Who was a New Yorker. So, it's obviously tongue-in-cheek, all this stuff. But then how about this one? Who do you think this came from, Julia?
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
The Gulf of Yorkshire. Huh?
Yes, it's all his.
That's from Pindar. Andrew Pindar sent that in. So it's amazing how these themes are continuing as we, it's giving us a new joke a day.
Yes.
A new joke a show, Julia. Speaking of jokes, this did come from Claire. Bad guy coming in, Arnie. Switch to a minor key. Huh?
Right.
I love these. I don't know where Claire gets these, but we're going to start calling her CTB, Claire the Brilliant, as Magnus the Magnificent named her. Now, this one, Julia, get your finger ready for.
Uh-oh.
But it may simplify our life. Only in Australia would you see a sign like this. No, and you don't pronounce it dickheads. It's pronounced in Australia, I know with some authority, dickheads. Dickens. We ask you to respect our no dickheads policy. If you are a dickhead, have been known to be a dickhead, or are thinking about being a dickhead today, we ask that you go be a dickhead somewhere else. And I got to thinking about this, instead of having that long thing about, no coarse language, no name calling, no personal attacks. As we like to say here on Sailing Illustrated, maybe we should change our prime directive to just be, don't be a dickhead.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
That came from Andrew McIrvin. Don't be a dickhead. I think that should be our new prime directive, Julia. Okay, wag your finger at Andrew and me if you want.
There must be a politer way to say that.
Dickhead. Dickhead. 3 thumbs up for no dickheads, J. Frederick Bland. He likes that. I think that's going to be our new. Julie, you have to approve it too. I can't approve that on my own.
No, you cannot.
Huh?
No, you can't.
My co-host has to approve. Thank you, Mr. Doctor.
I like the music of it, but
don't be a winker, Graham Sweet. Okay, enough of that. Now, this video that's coming up is apropos today. It's apropos Valentine's Day. From the Canadian Sail GP team. And it just is that quick. And let's play it again. You see what's going by in the background? February calendar with the 14th circled.
Right.
And the lower third that came with it said, uh-oh, it's February 14th, and you just realized salt spray doesn't count as a bouquet.
Yes.
Have you done all of your Valentine's Day carding and gifting and all that sort of stuff?
No.
Okay, well, we'll do one right now. From Clayton Embley.
All right.
Bourbon cream for you, Julia.
Oh.
Here's my Valentine's gift to you from Clayton Embley.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I have a
Oops.
post-show Carl. That was a pour.
Yes.
You got to have some of Clayton's bourbon cream. You'd think this show was brought to you by Bourbon Cream. Too bad it's not. But Jody Shields didn't send us anything. I'm hurt, Jody. Did you see the Rockwell? Yes, I did. The Bulldogs. I did also see Sir Ben Ainsley's post that was rather gay about the 2 bros on the team, but I didn't run it because I wasn't quite sure if it was a joke or not. But there's more, Julia. That came from the Canada Sail GP team. This one, when your spouse wants a Valentine's gift, but you spent your last $400 on boat parts, you give her a little cherry-flavored or strawberry-flavored heart-shaped sucker. Speaking of suckers, that came from Ed.
Yep.
Ed Worley. And finally, Julia, get ready with your finger. I couldn't resist. I told you to F the flowers. I wanted a new sailboat. You see, so it cuts both ways. That did, in fact, come from Clayton Embley. Now, you must like that one. That one's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's okay, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay, well,
I like the joke.
And J. Frederick Bland's just put up a whole bunch of synonyms for dickhead. Schlemiel down there at the bottom, a little Yiddish to wrap up the show, gets us to the finish line, and a good J24 shot from, I guess, Bermuda. It looks like Bermuda in the background. It says BER on the sail. Julia, you like to say?
Yes. Never miss the opportunity to like, follow, and especially share.
Indeed.
Because sharing is geometric.
And we've got 40 seconds before we're 2 hours even. So we're going to wrap this up in a hurry. Comments are welcome, even in replay, as you all know. Thanks especially to those of you who contribute via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated to become a patron. It keeps us on the air, keeps our studio working, our streaming costs paid, which continue to grow. Thanks, Alistair Murray, for your kind comment. And thanks.
And your kind contributions.
Well, and his kind contributions, and John's as well. Thank you to everybody who got 15 seconds and gave us today audio, video, and images. Final thoughts, Julia?
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Perfect. Take care, everyone. Gordon Smith is saying. Chris actually is saying thank you. T.R. DeYoung, thanks again. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Reminder that next Tuesday we have Britt Ward coming on. Britton Ward will be with us Tuesday talking about the 25th Chesapeake Sailing Yacht Symposium, what's going on, and of course, inevitably, we'll get into the 37th America's Cup because he was on the design team for American Magic.
Oh, yes.
I've done a couple cups with Britt. He's one of the smartest guys in the sports, and I am looking forward to that and hearing more about the world's longest running technical forum dedicated to advancing the art and science of sailing, and also to his design, their design of American Magic. Next week, on Friday, we got Coach John Rogers of the San Diego Yacht Club USA, an expert DF95 sailor, and he's more than an expert. He is a huge proponent of radio-controlled yachting. We'll have him next Friday. And then, of course, we have Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin the following week talking about offshore racing. So we got quite a lineup, Julia.
We do.
And with that, we hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, wherever you are in the world, and a great Valentine's Day if it's not already behind you. No pun intended. In the meantime, we'll see you Tuesday. And do go sailing. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now. Julia, we can wave. We can wave.